So our first topic today is the new and improved Kawartha Lakes City Council. So why is it improved? So let's just start there with the big question.
Well, that's a loaded question. Why is it improved? But I think we go back to pre-amalgamation, and we had 96 local, with all the townships in the county, 96 local politicians, councillors and reeves and such. In amalgamation, we went to 17, 16 councillors and a mayor when we amalgamated as the city of Kawartha Lakes in 2001, and now here in 2018, we've taken the final step, maybe, of going to 8 councillors and 9. So when we say the new and improved, it's in my opinion, it's less government, which is never a bad thing. It's us being able to sit around the table in the structure of our council meetings and have a really good conversation and make some good decisions. I mean, we'll see how that all plays out over the next 3.5 years, but so far so good. I think we really are more open and more focused on the issues, and rather than just speaking to let ourselves be heard, we're actually focusing on the topics in front of us.
Well, let me push back on that for a minute, because on the one hand, you're saying it's easier for you because you've got a good close-knit group and you can get decisions done quickly. What about for the people, though, who maybe had easier access when we had 96 local politicians? Maybe could get a hold of their reeve a lot more easily than they can.
It's quite possible. Representation, when we talked about, I wasn't here, on board pre-amalgamation days or whatever, but when we talked about going from 17 to 9, one of the absolute topics was how do we keep that representation for our residents? So, I think there was a very different relationship, back 20, 30 years ago with your local municipal government official. It was, Joe at the corner who, would come and fix the pothole, own the general store, own the corner store, the garage. And it was a very different relationship. And I think government has become a little more focused now. And, it's important that we are still accessible. We need to make sure we're accessible to our residents and we can deal with those issues. Even though there's less of us to do that, or less councillors to do that, I think they need to work a little, they have been working a little bit harder to make sure they're getting back to people. And if somebody has an issue, that issue is still being dealt with. So it's just, I think the structure has changed, and the way that process has worked has changed. Rather than always dealing with their local councillor, it's dealing maybe more with our local staff. And at the end of the day, as long as the problem's still getting solved, hopefully we're still doing what we're elected to do and dealing with our residents' concerns.
Let's talk about that structure for a minute. The Committee of the Whole, for instance, that's something that's new.
Yeah, it is new. I looked at putting that in place for the new council because we had less councillors. I wanted to be more transparent. I wanted a form where people could come in and do a deputation, and we're not, a Committee of the Whole is a structure with all of our council, but it's not under the council rules and the formality of a council meeting. So it allows us to go back and forth. It allows us to hear a deputation and then deal with the issue right afterwards, rather than separating, the deputations from the agenda. It gives us a lot more flexibility in dealing with our residents. And what we're doing is we're trying to set it up so that we'll have one Committee of the Whole meeting, which makes recommendations to council, which will meet 2 weeks later to deal with those recommendations. So it gives us a chance to think about it, think about that decision, but it also gives our residents a chance to be aware of the decisions that are coming to council. And if they don't like a recommendation that was made, then they have an opportunity to meet with councillors or come back to a council meeting and do another deputation. So
what does that mean if your deputation or a petition is received? What does that mean?
If a deputation or a petition is received, it means that council has received it into the record of the municipality.
Okay.
No further action is taken on it. It's just received. We have it. So if a petition is received, it means we've got it, but council has chosen to not take any further action on it.
Okay.
If it's received and referred back to staff for a report to come back at a later date, then we're asking our staff to take that petition, the concerns in that petition, do a report, do some background work, and bring it back to council when we have more information. There's always two sides to a story, and if we want to pursue an action on that, same with the deputation. If they want to take action on somebody's concerns in a deputation, we will refer it back to staff. If it's just received, then council has chosen to just hear what that person has to say and leave it at that.
Okay. So how do people get more involved in their local government, that whole civic engagement piece, you know, the making of a deputation or maybe joining a committee, how does that kind of thing happen?
Yeah, a deputation is simple enough. Some people, and one of the aspects that I like of our new structure is that if somebody calls and has a concern, in the past when it's on a council agenda, we could only receive deputations according to our bylaw that had to do with something on the agenda. Okay. So if we were bringing forward a sale of a piece of land or a parkland and the local residents were concerned, they could come and do a deputation. With the committee of the whole structure that we're doing now, it doesn't have to be on any agenda. They can just come forward and share their concerns with council. So they don't have to wait for a special meeting once a quarter or whatever to do that. So we're turning them over. We're hearing from more people so far ahead of time. All they need to do is contact our clerk's office, fill out a prescribed form on what their concern is, what they want to talk about. Everybody has 5 minutes in a deputation, so it's a great opportunity to come forward and share your concerns with council, because it is all of council. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be on a committee, again, you can contact our clerk's office. We have a list of volunteer, some legislated committees, some are just volunteer committees where folks can get involved if it's something they're specifically interested in. Mm-hmm. Could be an accessibility committee, could be a parks committee, whatever their passion maybe is. They can look at it and decide where they want to go from there. So
what is
hard to do.
What does a legislative committee mean?
We have certain legislated committees in the municipality that we have to have. One is accessibility that I mentioned. It's legislated, so we are obligated as a municipality to have an accessibility committee. Mm-hmm. There's a certain number of people on that committee that have to have accessibility issues, so we're getting that point of view. And there's a few other ones like our health unit and Kawartha Conservation. There's a few of those that are actually legislated that we have to have a committee for if we utilize those services. So there's lots of opportunity for people to volunteer and get involved if they like.
Okay, and I guess one other thing on this topic, there's some mayor's information sessions coming up in May and June.
There is, yeah. Every year, one of the things I'd like to do, I did it last term, and I want to continue to do it this term, is what we call the mayor's town hall meetings, where I go around the municipality. I try to have one in each ward. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with 8 wards, that's a little easier than 16 wards. So I'm excited about that restructuring in that regard. Mm-hmm. But what I'm looking to do, and I'm going to continue them this spring and summer, so in May, end of May, and the beginning and June, I'm going to have 7 or 8 information sessions where there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of concerns out there about, the finances of the city, the debt of the city, where are we going? Some of the things we've talked about here over the last few months. And I want to go out into the community and share some of that information with our residents and answer their questions. And, I don't think we can, as a council, we should be passing budgets and making decisions and then sitting in our office. We passed a budget last month. Now I want to go out to the residents and show them what that budget was, why it was a good budget, talk it up, here's some questions, here's some of their concerns, let them know where we're spending their money on. And it's important for me to get out there and hear what they have to say as well.